Let's now see what happened when they arrived at Mount Sinai. It was like a 3-month journey, right down in the wilderness, this mountain. When they arrived there, God told Moses to tell the people to prepare to meet God. So they were to prepare themselves, and then God would speak to them from Mount Sinai. So only Moses was allowed to go up. The rest were at the base of the mountain, not to touch it. And then thunder, lightning, a loud trumpet, and God descended in fire. And it looked like Mount Sinai was on fire. It's like a furnace. And Moses walked up into this awesome presence of God. And he spent 40 days there with God. What did God do during these 40 days? God communicated his instructions to Moses. And we only know, we say, oh, Moses brought down the 10 commandments, as if God took 40 days to tell him those 10 commandments, which you can memorize in 10 minutes. No. 40 days, God taught Moses so that he could teach the people not only the 10 commandments, which is what they call the book, the Jews call this the book of the covenant. This is the laws, the principles for our moral behavior. These principles are everlasting. You don't lie, you don't commit adultery. It's not for Jews, or it's not just for Israel, it's for all men. This is God's principles for life. So those are the 10 commandments. But God also communicated to Moses many other laws about how to live in their society, how to treat your wife, how to treat your kids, how to treat your slaves, how to treat your neighbors, how to deal with a thief, and so on, how to deal with your land. So those are like community laws. And then God also gave them laws on how to worship Him. Largely, they were very specific details of how to build the tabernacle and how the priests would be dressed and behave and what they were supposed to do in the tabernacle. So for 40 days, Moses, of course, had to remember all these things, probably ask 1,000 questions to get it right, because he had to teach the people, right? Now, when you read all this from Exodus 20, all these laws, the 10 commandments, you want to take it very seriously. It's for us. Then the laws about community life. It's almost like, do you remember all the laws of Singapore about littering, about public nuisance, about divorce laws? I think lawyers know all those things. For us, we just want to know that there are those laws. We don't need to know the details of them. Furthermore, about the tabernacle, how it was to be embroidered and how many cubits. Do you really need to know all those things? Frankly, no. They were meant for Israelite society and for Israelite worship. They're useful to know. I'm sure there are a lot of beautiful things in those details that are types for us to learn. We can learn about God through those things, but we don't need to study them as if we are Israelites. Oh, what do I do when, my neighbor steals my cattle? So what I'm trying to say here is a lot of Christians read this and say, oh my goodness, so many details, so boring, I get stuck in this. Don't get stuck. Just listen. It's good to know when I hear lawyers telling us about their divorce laws and their laws about this. I'm just interested. I don't like, excuse me, what do you say? Take notes. There's no need, all right? So please remember to read the Bible, or sometimes just listen to the Bible, because if you read everything the same way, you will take years to finish the Bible, and you will get lost in the woods. That's why most Christians are lost in the woods. They don't know when to take it as if it's directly to me. 10 Commandments directly. I better memorize that. Do I memorize how to deal with cattle that are stolen? All right? By an Israelite neighbor? I don't need to memorize that. I don't even need to read it in detail. I just need to hear it. So I hope you understand that there's so many laws, and some people get stuck in the history of Israel, or the king, and you can't even remember their names. Okay. For the Israelites, it's very important. That's their history. You learn your history. But we can learn things from their history. So I hope that when you come to chapters like chapter 21, 22, and go on to like tens of chapters, just listen to it and get the feel of it. So I hope you see here that God at Sinai was giving Moses rules how to live. They had now seen God's grace. Now they need to respond in gratitude. How do you show great gratitude to the one who's good to you, to your parents, for example? By obeying them, by obeying their rules. So God was giving them now their responsibility to obey God.